Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first public meeting for the I-4 Corridor Urban Expansion Area Study. The meeting will begin in just a few minutes. While we wait for everyone to arrive, please go ahead and submit any initial questions or comments you have, anything you hope to learn during this meeting. In the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, there should be a button that looks like the image that's being shown now. And at any time during this meeting, you are welcome to submit questions and comments by clicking that button. You'll also be able to like other comments that are submitted as well. And this meeting is being recorded. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the first public meeting for the I-4 Corridor Urban Expansion Area Study. Today's meeting will address a variety of topics related to this study. We'll begin with a welcome overview of the meeting purpose and some introductions of the study team. We'll also discuss the background of the study, our scope, and our schedule. We'll look at the study area and discuss real estate market trends that have been identified by our market study expert. We'll also have an opportunity for you to participate in some breakout sessions with some of the speakers that you'll hear from this evening. And then we'll be wrapping up and we'll talk about next steps and what to expect going forward. My name is Stephen Benson, and I'm the consultant project manager. And I am going to hand it off now to Sophia with the Planning Commission.
Thanks, Stephen. My name is Sophia Garantiva, Principal Planner with the Planning Commission and one of the project managers on the Planning Commission side um, for this study. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. And a little bit about who the Planning Commission is. The Planning Commission is an independent, multi-jurisdictional again, serving unincorporated Hillsborough County, the city of Tampa, Plant City, and Temple Terrace, comprehensive planning agency led by a board of appointed citizens. We are responsible for developing state-mandated comprehensive plans, which guide how and where communities will grow over the next 20 plus years. The Planning Commission makes recommendations on land use decisions to the Board of County Commissioners. This includes requested changes to the comprehensive plan and special land use related such studies such as this one. Next slide. This meeting is part of the first round of community meetings for the urban expansion area planning study for the I-4 corridor area. The study itself will be completed in 4 stages. Community meetings will be held during each stage, one virtual, such as tonight, and then 2 in person that we have next week. The purpose of this round of meetings is to get input as part of the existing conditions, which is stage 1, Stage two, we will get into a little bit more detail and have a land use workshop style meeting. Stage three is when we'll present some scenarios that, again, that feedback we get from stage two will help create. And from there, we will, again, all together as a group, solidify a preferred scenario, which will at stage four be finalized and include some maps. And then these recommendations and those maps will be presented to the Board of County Commissioners after stage four is complete. And more information on the scope of the study will be presented shortly. There are multiple ways to participate. This is just, again, the first meeting of many. You can sign up to receive email updates, submit public comments by visiting the project website, as shown here on the slide, planhillsboro.org/I4UEA. You can attend one of the two additional meetings next week at Bailey Elementary. Those again are in person on April 16th from 6 to 8, or on Saturday, April 18th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can also complete the stage one survey, which is posted on our website. Again, that same website you see in green. And you could just continue to stay involved over the next three stages of the project itself. So tonight's meeting, this presentation will take approximately 30 minutes, might be a little bit over, but we'll try to stick to that 30 minutes. After the presentation, we invite you to stay on the call and join virtual breakout room, which I'll go over exactly how that works. In these breakout rooms, you can dive in a little deeper into the specific topics that are being presented tonight. All the information will be posted on the project webpage, including a recording of this presentation and the supporting images and maps. And again, that website is shown here in green. So more about the breakout rooms. To join a breakout room, we'll announce that we're going to go ahead and go to that portion of the presentation. The breakout room icon is four squares that you'll see at the edge of your screen. But if you do not see that button, you go to the More icon, which is the circle with the three dots, and you'll be able to select it from there. To come back to the main room once we go into breakout rooms, you'll be able to click the button at the edge of the screen that has the image of a person leaving with the door open that says leave, and you can leave the breakout room. You select that one. If you select leave meeting, you will leave the meeting. But to leave the breakout room and go to another breakout room, if you had a question on another topic, you'll be able to do that through, again, that button, that icon. And again, the breakout rooms will not be recorded, and we will reconvene in the main room at approximately 6:55. Or if we change, conversations are going well in those breakout rooms, we will post in the chat when we will be reconvening. So that way we will give enough notice for everyone to finish up their conversations. All right, and then how to participate in this meeting generally. As mentioned earlier, you can submit questions and comments at any time by clicking the QA box at the edge of the screen, and it looks like two little chat bubbles. You can also like and comment on what other participants have written. Host announcements will appear in the chat box as well. We'll be providing you with links and additional information throughout the presentation as we've been doing so far. And again, the meeting is being recorded. So introductions and project roles. Again, I've already introduced myself, but the other folks on the project team are Andrea Papandrew, who is the co-project manager, Victoria Duran, Jay Collins, who is not with us tonight, but Melissa Dickens is here serving the role that Jay usually does. And then Daniel Agbenew is here to help out with any technical issues. So if you're having trouble, again, with any of the technology, he is here to help you out. From the consultant team, Stephen has already introduced himself. We also have Thomas Tom Lavash. We also have Fatima Elcott and Jason Gonzalez that are in charge of public engagement for the study, as well as Matt Lewis. So that is the project team and their roles. And I'll hand it back over to Stephen to continue on with the presentation.
Great, thank you. So now we will get into just a few slides to go over the background, the scope, and the schedule of this study. So in March of 2024, the Board of County Commissioners directed staff to study two areas of unincorporated Hillsborough County for a possible future expansion of the urban service area. And those two areas of the county are shown in the upper right-hand side of the screen and are also zoomed in here at the bottom portion of the screen. On the left-hand side, you'll see the Little Manatee South area was part of uh, that direction, as well as the area around the I-4 corridor, which is shown on the right side of the screen. The remainder of this presentation, as well as the two meetings that are going to be essentially duplicates of this presentation that will occur in person next week, those all focus on the I-4 corridor, so the purple area on the right side of the screen. The green area is being looked at under a separate public meeting and separate timeline. So for those that aren't familiar with the urban service area, it is a growth management tool that was established in the comprehensive plan in 1993. And it envisions that no less than 80% of new growth and redevelopment occurring within that urban service area boundary. However, as land continues to be developed and redeveloped throughout the county, the urban service area has become more constrained. Based upon current population projections, that 80% threshold may not be met by 2040. There's more information about the urban service area in general at the Planning Commission's website, and you can access that by going to this link or going to planhillsborough.org and clicking urban service area. The scope of our study is to take a look at this concept of an urban expansion area. The comprehensive plan establishes this concept as a way to plan for future population and job growth in an efficient manner while addressing infrastructure demands, housing and job needs, natural and rural area preservation, and quality of life. At the end of this study, the process for the I-4 corridor will address the following topics. And all of these topics relate back to that urban expansion area policy. Things like locations for urban and suburban development, encouraging a mix of uses to reduce trip lengths and to promote efficiency, looking at gradual transitions in land uses, especially near rural and agricultural areas, looking at potentially creating new future land use categories if that is determined to be needed, looking at amendments to adopted community plans if that's determined to be needed, looking at input from property owners, public service needs, ensuring that natural systems can be maintained, looking at transportation needs, the overall fiscal impact of future growth, as well as reviewing fees and funding sources to ensure that we can pay for those long-term needs that are identified. So this is the project schedule. These 4 stages are what Sophia spoke to earlier in the presentation. We're here in stage 1 in spring of 2026. Going into early summer, we will move into stage 2, stage 3, where we actually start showing a preferred alternative and recommended maps. That is going to be the summer of 2026. And then the final plan and maps and those recommendations that are produced will be presented in the fall of 2026. And then at the end of this process, that recommendation is just a recommendation. It will go to the Board of County Commissioners to make any final determination on any amendments to the plan that happen as a result of the study. Okay, so now we will transition into an overview of the study area with myself and also with Matt, who will introduce himself now.
Thanks, Stephen. As mentioned earlier, my name is Matt Lewis. I'm overseeing the I-4 portion of this urban service area expansion study. And I'm going to start by looking at the study area that Stephen showed earlier, but just kind of zooming in a little bit. And the area is approximately 35,000 acres, more or less. And it's nestled between Temple Terrace and Seffner Mango and Plant City. The area between the Tampa Bypass Canal and I-75 on the furthest west portion of the study area, that's the Tampa Executive Airport that you all know and love. And then as you move towards Plant City, the yellow line that goes north and south is the extent of Plant City vision area that's in Plant City's comprehensive plan. And then you see on the bottom is State Road 60. And if you look at the very area just under the EA of area, you'll see Lake Thono. And so that represents the northern edge of the area that we're studying. We're looking at this for possible recommendations for urban expansion areas. It doesn't necessarily mean that all this area is going to become future urban service area. So we'll start by looking at the existing land uses in the area, one piece at a time. So this is a common pattern of existing land uses, not only here, but everywhere you go around the country. And what you see is commercial areas clustering around major transportation routes. You see Mango Road, the interchange there. You see some commercial. You see commercial on McIntosh Road. And then you see it further to the right end at Branch Forbes Road. Those are your three major intersections along the interstate. So that's where you're going to see most of your commercial locating. And you'll also see in the red along Highway 92, which is Hillsborough, you'll see a lot of commercial locating along that area and a lot more of your higher density residential locating along that area. Again, you're seeing the more intense uses clustering near major transportation routes, with the exception of the very south along 574. Stephen, you can kind of go over that central red area. That's the old community of Dover. And that's been around for longer than we've had planning in this area. So you'll see a lot of intensity in there, it's just because it's extremely old. And then the majority of the remainder of it is in agricultural use right now, along with a bit of a residential kind of clustered along the major transportation routes and near the commercial areas. So we'll go down to the next portion, which is moving to the east towards Plant City along I-4. And you see the same pattern repeated here. The commercial uses are located along the major transportation routes. And you'll see the agricultural and residential areas kind of clustered in spots in between them. The big purple spot you see right there, that is Strawberry Crest High School, if I remember correctly. So going on to the next slide, moving to the south towards State Road 60, you see that we've moved away from our major transportation routes. So now what you're seeing is agricultural and residential areas. There's no real way to move people into the more commercial areas, with the exception of the Old Town to Dover, which we pointed out in the first slide. It's still there in the other one. And that's the only remaining commercial area on this is actually a Dollar General and taco stand located next to an old industrial area. So if we can understand why it looks like that, let's move to the future land use map. This is how this area was planned, a long time ago. And you see in the middle of this future land use map, the Old Town of Dover, recognizing it. And you see a lot of future land uses that are getting more towards the commercial uses located near the interchanges. And the vast majority of this area is residential 1, which is a future land use that allows both agricultural and single-family residential. So that's why you see that interspersed single-family residential neighborhoods with agricultural areas throughout the majority of this study area. Moving on to the next slide. We want to understand the environmental sensitivity of this area before we kind of move on to recommending what expansion philosophies for the I-4 region might look like. And basically, to understand this map, all you have to do is say the darker the color, the less likely it is to be able to receive more urban development forms. If it's black, it's right out. That means it's a floodway or something that you should just never build in. If it's white, it probably means it's already built. So we aggregated a whole bunch of layers regarding habitats, sensitivity to rainfall, flood zones, wildlife, the water supply, and scored them from least sensitive to most sensitive to just don't build there. To identify really where you should be thinking about any potential expansions of the urban service area from a sensitivity to development perspective. And the green areas are already conserved off limits to development. If we go on to the next slide, we've also looked at 10 other plans and studies in coming to this analysis of the existing conditions here. Most recent studies completed were the infrastructure and environmental assessment for the I-4 corridor. That's actually where the methodology for the overall way we're looking at environmental sensitivity has come from in this property. And this area has been studied either at a community plan level or at a vision level in Plant City or at a master plan level over the past 20 years. It's extensively studied, and there is a lot of policy background for us to gather to understand how this area should grow. And here are the community plans that are adopted into Hillsborough County's comprehensive plan. It's adjacent to the Valrico Community Plan, which was most recently completed. And the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan includes the Tampa Executive Airport and the residential areas to the south of that. And the Thonotosassa Community Plan and Sefner-Mago Community Plan both have portions of them that are located within the study area that we're looking at. So we kind of took these studies and put them all together and said, what do they really say about how you think about urban expansion in this particular area? And the first thing they say is plan first and then phase the growth and prioritize community engagement, identify funding strategies before you do any urban service area expansion. And that's where we're at right here, is we're really thinking about what the community wants. We're thinking about the way things need to be funded and things like that. And then the next thing they say is, before you go about expanding the urban service area, make sure you've made the best use possible for your existing urban service area, infill development. And then once you've reached the point where you need to expand, develop strict criteria for how you expand the urban service area. Understand that you only do it when you meet specific triggers, and that as you do it, you meet triggers in doing it. And then the concept of nodal development was something that was a common theme for when expansion was mentioned. And nodal development basically just means that development occurs in concentrated nodes, and it basically clusters so that you preserve as much rural lifestyle and agriculture as possible. Shift away from low density sprawl, phase the implementation timeline so that it happens in a gradual manner. And then make sure that it's integrated with public facilities planning so that you plan for urban services along with the residential and commercial that go with urban service expansion. So moving on to the next slide, I believe is Tom Lavash, who will introduce himself.
Thank you, Matt. I am Tom Lavash, and our firm has been leading the real estate market study, which encompasses a variety of tasks. One is demographics, to understand what we call the drivers of demand for future growth. We're looking at real estate market conditions in both what we're calling I-4 Main, which is the core study area, and we're looking at to the adjoining areas I-4 West and I-4 East highlighted in this map. That's really to understand what's happening around us and what might that have in terms of impacts on how the core study area may grow in the future. We'd like to share some initial findings with you. The next 4 slides will be specific information to I-4 Main. And then I'll come back later in the presentation and we'll step back a bit and look at what's happening around us. Try to be brief as possible. So I-4 Main, again, the core study area, you are about 9 or 10% of the larger real estate market study area, again, west and east, about 31,000 residents. Your share of that entire area has actually declined slightly as growth has been stronger to your west and to your east over the last 15 years. You have, interestingly, the highest incomes, average household incomes of the entire larger study area. Over the last 15 years, we want to understand trend lines as a means of helping to guide what may happen in the future. You've accounted for, I-4 Maine has accounted for only 5% of all of the population growth over the last 15 years of those three areas. Generally similar household size and median age as well, relative to those other two areas. Next slide, Stephen. You've had a little bit of growth since 2010, about 2,100 new folks, in about 1,000 new households. And I mentioned the issue of households. That averages out to be about 71 households a year. Now, the Planning Commission forecasts suggest over the next 25 years that I-4 Maine, the core study area, will add about 42,500 new residents in 14,400 new households. If that growth materializes, what that suggests is that you would have to add 576 new households every year. Your trend line has been 71 new households a year. So the Planning Commission forecast suggests that what's happened in the past would have to grow 8 times as quickly over the course of the next 25 years. Next slide, Stephen. Some tidbits, if I may, on employment. We always look at employment as a barometer of demand for what we call workplace uses. That's industrial space, office space, retail centers, and the like. The core study area over the last 15 years added about 2,200 new jobs in specific industry sectors: construction, wholesale and retail trade, professional services, which drives demand for office space, manufacturing. On the other hand, you lost 2,200 jobs in agriculture. So what that translated to was a net gain of only about 68 new jobs in the core study area. Your largest sectors are retail trade and agriculture. The Planning Commission's forecasts suggest 11,800 new jobs over the next 25 years to 2050. And what that would mean, that would be about 470, a gain of 470 jobs annually. 42,000 new residents would mean that your population would grow about 1,700 people per year. So your population, if the forecasts materialize, would be growing faster than would jobs. Next slide, Stephen. Some factoids, if I may, on housing. Predominantly a lower density single family area. Fully 2/3, a little bit higher, are owner occupied. About 20% that are renter occupied. About 30% of your housing stock is mobile homes, like Palms of Dover, the Tampa East RV Park and McIntosh Road. Those are two large mobile home projects. That comprises about 30% of your housing stock. That's significantly more than the county as a whole, which is about 6.5% of the county's housing stock that are mobile or manufactured homes. We also looked at building permits as a means of gauging how much new residential development there has been. And over the course of the last 15 years, the county's issued over 900 permits for new housing. That's about 60 permits a year. Next slide, Stephen.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tom. Now we will transition into discussing the existing conditions and planned improvements for infrastructure and public facilities. And I'll hand it off to Matt to talk about water and wastewater.
Yeah, so as you can see on this map, if it's got a purple color, it means it's served by water and or wastewater. And since our area is largely outside of the urban service area, including, actually entirely outside the urban service area, it's served by, for the most part, private water and wastewater systems. With a few exceptions, there's a water system along near the Tampa Executive Airport that's served through urban services, and as well as areas along Mango Road. And if you remember from our future land use map, that was the more higher density areas of the study area. And there's also an extension of wastewater service that primarily serves Strawberry Crest High School as part of making sure that, high schools have adequate sewage for all the students there. So if we go to the next slide, we can look at public safety serving the area. And the area right now is served by 3 fire stations. You can see there's one in the Dover area, one north near the Plant City vision boundary, and one just outside in the Nonassassa Main Street. It's slated to be moved there. That's a funded stations. There are 3 unfunded stations in the fire services, Hillsborough County's Fire Rescue Master Plan. And any expansions of the urban service area will probably necessitate increasing fire services to the area. Move to next slide, Stephen, transportation.
Okay, so this is the summary of the existing transportation system. Regional access here is very good, provided by both interstates as well as US 92, State Road 574, and State Road 60. However, aside from those facilities, there's very limited roadway network and capacity available on other major roads. Most of the other major roads are limited to just 2 lanes. There are limited bicycle and pedestrian facilities as well. You can see those on the screen with the dashed light blue and then the thinner dark blue line. You see how they're a lot more prevalent once you get into the Valrico Brandon area, but once you get into our study area, very, very little on the map here. And then, of course, you see that there is no HART transit service. And then also that, as was mentioned previously, the Tampa Executive Airport does sort of anchor the western end of the study area, which is a great asset to have from a transportation perspective. Looking at overall what is adopted and planned in terms of infrastructure improvements, road widening is planned for I-75, I-4, State Road 60, as well as State Road 574. There are intersection improvements underway on US 92 that generally correspond to the north-south roads that connect to I-4. State Road 574 is also the western segment of it, or the eastern segment of it, excuse me, they're identified in blue, is also slated for repaving as well, the section that's not planned to be widened. And then on the map, you're also seeing there's over 50 capital improvement program projects that the county has identified funding for, either for planning, design, or construction, or a combination. The most common CIP project is the culvert repair and replacement. You can see those identified in the lighter blue dot on the map. Pedestrian and bike facilities are identified with a green dot, and then roadway operations and safety improvements are identified in yellow. Stormwater and water quality improvements are identified also in red. So quite a bit programmed in terms of infrastructure here in this area. Looking at parks, schools, and solid waste, just overall public facilities. There are about 8 parks in the city area, as well as the county fairgrounds down off of State Road 60. 22 schools serve the study area. About 9 of those schools actually fall within our study area boundary, but of course the zones are much larger and do overlap into the area from outside. The entire study area is served by trash and recycling curbside collection. And of all the parks in the area, the largest park is the Sidney Dover Conservation Park there to the south, as well as the adjacent sports complex just west of the fairgrounds. And now we'll hand it back to Tom to discuss the market study.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. I will endeavor to be quick. Next slide, if you could. So why a market study? Obviously, the most important component here is to ensure that the recommendations coming out of the plan are grounded in economic and market realities and reflect what's happening on the ground as well. You can see each of the other objectives here. Next slide. I'll endeavor to go into more detail in the breakout room. So the market study area, again, east, west, and Maine, is growing more slowly than the county as a whole. But within the three sub areas, west is growing the fastest. And of course, that includes Brandon, Mango Sefner, and the communities along the I-75 corridor where there has been significant new residential and commercial development. Next slide. One of the metrics we look at in terms of understanding retail potentials is how much households are spending on retail every year. And retail buying power is strong, and that, of course, is tied to income levels. I-4 Maine households are spending about $24,000 a year, similar to the county, and they're spending less in East and in West. Your annual job growth in this larger geography, you're adding about 3,200 new jobs a year, not surprising with Brandon being, for example, being a major economic generator, and then the industrial to the east along County Line Road being another economic generator. So job growth is occurring more quickly than is population growth, about 3,000 people per year in this three-area zone. A strong jobs to population ratio, or what that means is that the countywide average is there are 42 jobs for every 100 residents. The average here is about 38 jobs for every 100 residents. You've got significant commuting problems or commuting of the labor force participants out of the area. Every day, about 115,000 people who live here are leaving this area to work elsewhere, but 133,000 people are coming in to work in the three-zone area. Next slide. There's been significant new housing development and growth, and you can see in the graphic on the right, the one dot equals 10 new housing units. And I believe this is from the past 15 years. So you can see what's happening around you. The amount of new residential development is significant, particularly west around Brandon and moving a little bit south as you go toward Riverview, and again, north and east above Plant City. Demand for multifamily, for rental, is very strong. All of this new residential development is consuming 333 acres of land a year. That's a significant finding here. The demand for multifamily is reflected in what we call absorption, and that is basically if a unit is empty yesterday and occupied tomorrow, leased tomorrow, that's called absorption. And over the past 5 years, every year that average is close to 500 units a year are being absorbed in the marketplace. And even though new multifamily developments are being built faster than the market can absorb, there's always a lag time as those units lease up, but it's happening quickly and vacancy rates are coming down. Next slide. We looked at market conditions in both office and industrial space. Office space is concentrated in west, not surprisingly, around Brandon and along 75. I wouldn't want to be an office developer these days. I think given the work from home policies and challenges coming out of the pandemic and subsequent years since, high vacancies in the office market in this area are about 20%. When we look at office market conditions of real estate on the ground, we want to see a vacancy of 5% or less. There's been negative absorption. That means that there's been more space vacated than has been absorbed or leased. And in fact, over the last 5 years, it's been the equivalent of about 3 of those buildings the size of Crosstown Center, illustrated in the upper right there. On the other hand, industrial is very strong. Not surprisingly, if you drive up and down County Line Road, the amount of new big warehouses, logistics, and distribution facilities, the industrial inventory in our larger study area is almost half the amount of industrial space countywide. Vacancies are stable, absorption is strong, and industrial growth is consuming over 100 acres of land a year. Next slide, Stephen. Retail is concentrated in West, not surprisingly around Brandon Town Center or Brandon Exchange. In fact, more than 80% of all of the retail in our larger three-zone area is in West. And you can see that in the metric of retail space per capita. It's about 55 square feet in East and West, but it's only 17 square feet per person or per resident in Maine. Retail is consuming about 30 acres of land a year. Other metrics, low vacancies, positive absorption. So the retail market is considered healthy. Population growth is outpacing the amount of new retail development, which from a market analyst perspective suggests that there would be pent-up demand for new retail in the future. Next slide. So what does it all mean? The demand models that we prepared suggest that there will be demand in the future for another 200,000 square feet of office space above what the Planning Commission's forecast had suggested. And two key factors in terms of what drives demand for both office and industrial space. One, it's obviously job growth, and it's the amount of space that an employee occupies. And while it's coming down on average for an office employee, it's increasing on average for an industrial employee, in part because of facilities like those logistics centers on County Line Road. So there is significant demand for industrial space in the future based on that job growth. And metrics in terms of retail demand are driven by population growth, by household growth, by income levels, and by what households spend on retail. And what that suggests to us in terms of what does the future hold is all of that will drive demand for an additional 1.2 to about 1.9 million square feet of space somewhere in our three-zone area. And I think that's it. Stephen?
Great. Thanks, Tom. That was great information. So for those that are interested in discussing more about the market study findings with Tom, we invite you to join one of the 4 breakout rooms that I will be introducing to you in just one second. To join a breakout room, we'll ask you to go ahead and click the breakout rooms button at the edge of your screen. And again, to come back to the main room after the conversation's over, you'll click that leave button and hit leave breakout room. If you don't see a button at the bottom, you may have to click this more circle. It has 3 dots in it, and then it'll pop up an option for you to click the breakout room and select the one of your choice. We have 4 breakout rooms available this evening. The first breakout room will be with Tom to continue the conversation about the real estate market analysis. The second breakout room will be existing conditions with Matt and myself, talking about most of the remainder of the slides that were shown. Breakout room number 3 will be discussing really generally the overview of how policy and the planning process works with Melissa Dickens from the Planning Commission. And then breakout room number 4 will be focused on community assets mapping. With Fatima, you'll have an opportunity to add feedback to the map of various points of interest and places that you would like to identify for our study team to take a look at. And that information will be incorporated into our public involvement report and also the findings moving forward. So again, you have 4 options here. Please go ahead and take a look at the breakout rooms button at the bottom of your screen, and you should be able to select one of these 4 rooms. Breakout room 1 is the real estate market study. Breakout room 2 is overall existing conditions of the I-4 corridor study area. Breakout room number 3 is understanding the policy and the process. And then breakout room number 4 is our community asset mapping activity. And if you're having any technical difficulties, feel free to drop that in the Q&A box and we'll help you get that resolved.